You're not watching this by accident. The fact that you're here right now, seeing these words, hearing this voice, means something has shifted in your reality field. Something has aligned. Because what I'm about to share with you isn't for everyone. It's for those who have moved through what I call the final test, without even knowing they were being tested. You've been living inside a reality where you thought you were seeking answers, searching for truth, looking for the key that would finally unlock your potential. But here's what no one tells you. The seeking was the test. And the moment you truly passed it, everything changed. Let me explain. For years, maybe decades, you've been navigating what feels like an endless maze of spiritual concepts, manifestation techniques, consciousness work, quantum theories. You've read the books, watched the videos, attended the workshops. You've tried to raise your vibration, align your chakras, reprogram your subconscious. You've visualized, affirmed, meditated, and journaled your way through every practice under the sun. And sometimes it worked. Sometimes you glimpsed something profound, felt that electric moment of alignment where everything seemed possible. But then, it faded. The old patterns returned. The same limitations showed up. The same reality kept reflecting back at you, stubborn and unchanged. So you searched harder, tried different techniques, blamed yourself for not doing it right, for not believing enough, for not being spiritual enough or evolved enough or pure enough in your intention. But here's the thing that changes everything. You were never broken. You were never doing it wrong. You were moving through the exact process that was designed to bring you to this moment right here. The final test isn't a test of your ability to manipulate reality through techniques. It's not a test of how well you can visualize or how pure your thoughts are, or how high you can raise your frequency. The final test is whether you can finally stop trying to pass tests. Let that land for a moment. If you're feeling this shift happening within you as we speak, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps this frequency reach others who are ready for this recognition. You've been approaching consciousness like it was a skill to master, a game to win, a mountain to climb. But consciousness isn't something you achieve, it's something you are. And the moment you stop trying to become conscious and simply recognize that you already are conscious, that you have always been conscious, everything shifts. This is where quantum physics becomes more than theory, more than metaphor. In the quantum field, the observer and the observed are one system. You're not separate from what you're trying to create or change or become. You are the field itself, localized as this particular point of awareness, having this particular experience. The final test is recognizing that there was never anything to fix, nothing to heal, nothing to transcend, nothing to achieve. The final test is seeing through the illusion that you were ever separate from the very consciousness you've been seeking to understand. And here's how you know you passed it. You stopped needing to pass it. Think about your journey over the last few months, maybe the last year. Something has been quietly shifting, hasn't it? You've been noticing synchronicities without trying to make them happen. You've been feeling more at peace without working so hard to find peace. You've been experiencing moments of clarity that don't come from any particular practice or technique. You've been embodying what you used to chase. The old you would have analyzed these shifts, tried to replicate them, turned them into another system to master. But something in you has relaxed. Something in you has stopped grasping. And in that letting go, in that settling into what is, you've accessed something that no technique could ever give you. You've accessed your natural state. This is what the mystics throughout history have been pointing toward. This is what quantum physicists are discovering in their laboratories. Reality isn't something that happens to you. Reality is something that happens through you, as you, by virtue of your very existence as conscious awareness itself. But let me be clear about something. This doesn't mean you become passive. It doesn't mean you stop creating, stop intending, stop participating in the dance of manifestation. It means you begin creating from a completely different foundation. Instead of trying to use consciousness as a tool to get what you want, you begin to recognize that consciousness is what you are, and what you want is simply consciousness exploring itself through different forms and experiences. This shifts everything. When you're trying to manifest from the old paradigm, there's always tension. There's always the gap between where you are and where you want to be, between what you have and what you're trying to create. And that gap creates resistance, which slows down or blocks the very thing you're trying to attract. But when you're creating from your natural state, from the recognition that you are already whole, already complete, already connected to infinite possibility, there's no gap. There's only expansion, only the joyful exploration of what this moment of consciousness might become next. You stop trying to fix your life and start letting your life express the fullness of who you are. You stop trying to raise your vibration and start recognizing that your vibration is perfect exactly as it is, because it's the unique signature of consciousness experiencing itself as you. You stop trying to align with the universe and start knowing that you are the universe, localized and personalized and having this exact experience right now. This is what you've been moving toward all along. Every practice you've done, every book you've read, every moment of struggle and breakthrough and confusion and clarity has been bringing you to this recognition. The final test was never about getting anywhere else. It was about coming home to where you've always been. And now that you're here, now that you've settled into this space, something miraculous begins to happen. Your external reality starts to rearrange itself to match this internal knowing. Not because you're forcing it to, not because you're using the right techniques, but because you've stopped interfering with the natural flow of consciousness, expressing itself as your life. The opportunities that are aligned with your authentic expression begin to show up effortlessly. The relationships that reflect your true nature begin to magnetize toward you. The circumstances that allow your gifts to emerge begin to organize themselves around you. But here's the beautiful paradox. You don't need any of it to be happy, to feel fulfilled, to know your worth. And that's exactly why it can flow to you freely. When you're no longer desperately seeking external validation of your internal worth, the external world becomes free to reflect that worth back to you. When you're no longer trying to prove your value through your achievements become genuine expressions of your joy, rather than compensations for your insecurity. When you stop needing reality to be different than it is, reality becomes infinitely more malleable. This is the space you've graduated into. This is the frequency you've been preparing to embody. And the more you rest here, the more you trust this, the more you allow this natural state to be your baseline, the more your life becomes a living demonstration of consciousness in form. But let me share something with you that might surprise you. You're not done. Passing the final test isn't the end of your journey. It's the beginning of a completely different kind of journey. Up until now, you've been working on yourself, trying to improve yourself, heal yourself, evolve yourself. And all of that was necessary. It was perfect. It brought you to this point of recognition. But now you're being invited into something much bigger. Now you're being invited to be a conscious participant in the evolution of consciousness itself. As you embody this natural state, as you live from this space of knowing who you truly are, you become what I call a field anchor. You become a point of coherence in the collective field that makes it easier for others to access their own natural state. Every moment you choose to rest in your authentic knowing, rather than slide back into the old patterns of seeking and striving, you're contributing to a shift in the morphic field that touches every other consciousness on the planet. This is why you're here. This is why you've moved through everything you've moved through. Not just for your own awakening, but to be a living example of what becomes possible when a human being stops trying to become something else and simply embodies what they already are. And this is where your real work begins. Not the work of self-improvement or spiritual development, but the work of authentic expression. The work of allowing your unique flavor of consciousness to manifest itself fully in the world. The work of being so genuinely yourself that you give everyone around you permission to be genuinely themselves. The work of living as love in action, not because you've transcended your humanity, but because you've fully embraced it. This is the invitation that comes after passing the final test: to stop hiding, to stop playing small, to stop apologizing for the magnitude of who you are, to step fully into your role as consciousness, exploring and expressing and expanding itself through this particular form called your life. And I want you to know something. The fact that you're hearing this, the fact that you're resonating with these words, means you're ready. You didn't arrive here by accident. You didn't stumble upon this message randomly. You're here because your consciousness is recognizing itself in these words. You're here because something in you is ready to stop pretending that you don't know who you are and what you're capable of. Take a moment right now and feel into the truth of that. Feel into the part of you that has always known, even when your mind was confused, even when your emotions were chaotic, even when your life seemed to be falling apart. There's been a part of you that has remained steady, present, aware. That part is not separate from you. That part is you. That awareness that has been witnessing your entire journey, that has been here through every high and low, every breakthrough and breakdown, every moment of clarity and confusion. That awareness is your true nature. And it has been patiently waiting for you to stop looking everywhere else and simply recognize what has always been here. The final test is complete. The seeking phase is over. The becoming phase is finished. Now begins the being phase. Now begins the phase where you live as the answer to your own questions, where you embody the solution you've been searching for, where you become the demonstration of what you've been trying to understand. This is what mastery actually looks like. Not the ability to control or manipulate or transcend your human experience, but the willingness to be fully present with it, fully engaged with it, knowing that every aspect of your experience is consciousness exploring itself. The problems you use to try to solve become opportunities to practice presence. The challenges you use to resist become invitations to embody your natural state under pressure. The people and situations that used to trigger you become mirrors showing you exactly where you're still pretending to be, separate from the wholeness you are. And as you navigate your life from this space, something begins to shift in the field around you. People start responding to you differently. Opportunities start flowing more easily. Your environment begins to reflect back the coherence you're embodying. But none of this becomes another goal to chase. None of this becomes evidence you need to prove your worth or your evolution. It simply becomes the natural result of consciousness knowing itself as itself. But before we go deeper into what this embodiment looks like, I want to address something that might be happening for you right now. As you're hearing these words, part of you might be thinking, "This sounds too good to be true." Or, "If I'm already whole and complete, why do I still have problems?" Or, "How can I be consciousness itself when I still feel separate sometimes?" These questions arise because you've been conditioned to believe that truth should be complicated, that profound realization should be difficult to access, that if something feels simple, it must not be real or lasting. But this is exactly the conditioning that the final test dissolves. Let me share something with you about the nature of problems. What you call problems are not obstacles to your wholeness. They are the way wholeness experiences contrast, explores possibilities, and knows itself more fully. When you're identified with being the person who has problems, problems feel threatening, overwhelming, evidence of your inadequacy. But when you recognize yourself as consciousness itself, problems become fascinating explorations, creative challenges, opportunities for awareness to discover new aspects of itself. This doesn't mean you become indifferent to your human experience. It means you become infinitely more present with it. Instead of trying to escape your humanity, you begin to inhabit it fully, knowing that every aspect of your human experience, the joy and the sorrow, the clarity and the confusion, the expansion and the contraction, is consciousness exploring the full spectrum of what it means to be alive in form. The person you used to be would hear this and immediately start trying to figure out how to apply it, how to use this understanding to fix what seemed broken in your life. But the you who has passed the final test receives this as confirmation of what you already know, a reminder of what you've begun to embody, an invitation to trust even more deeply in the process that's already unfolding through you. And this trust, this deep cellular knowing that you are not broken and never were broken, that you are not here to transcend your experience, but to fully embrace it. This trust becomes the foundation from which your new life emerges. Right now, as you're listening to these words, take a moment to comment below with this phrase: "I am the consciousness I've been seeking." Not as an affirmation you're trying to make true, but as a recognition of what has always been true. Let this be your declaration to the field, your conscious interruption in the loop of seeking that brought you to this moment. Comment that phrase now: "I am the consciousness I've been seeking." This isn't just engagement with a video. This is you making a statement to the universe about who you know yourself to be. This is you stepping out of the seeker identity and into the recognition of what you are. And as you make that declaration, notice what happens in your body. Notice the shift in energy, the settling, the coming home feeling that arises when you stop trying to become conscious and simply acknowledge that you are conscious. This is your natural state. This is where you live from now on. But let me show you what this looks like in practice, because understanding this conceptually is only the beginning. The real transformation happens when you begin to live from this recognition in your daily experience, when you bring this awareness into your relationships, your work, your challenges, your dreams. When you're living from your natural state, your relationship to time changes completely. You've probably noticed this already. The old you was always either dwelling in the past, replaying conversations, analyzing mistakes, carrying around stories about what happened to you, or projecting into the future, worrying about what might happen, planning for outcomes, living in anticipation or anxiety about what's to come. But consciousness exists only in the present moment. It's not because the present moment is more spiritual or more important than other moments. It's because the present moment is the only place where consciousness can actually experience itself. The past exists as memory arising in this moment. The future exists as imagination arising in this moment. All of experience happens now. When you recognize yourself as consciousness rather than as the person having experiences, you naturally settle into presence. Not as a practice you maintain through effort, but as the recognition of where you actually are. You've always been here now. You just spent years thinking you were somewhere else. And from this presence, this natural resting in what is, your entire relationship to manifestation shifts. You're no longer trying to create a future that will finally make you happy, because you've discovered the happiness that exists independent of circumstances. You're not trying to manifest from a sense of lack or inadequacy, because you've recognized the fullness that you are. Instead, manifestation becomes play. It becomes the joyful exploration of what consciousness might express through your unique configuration of preferences, gifts, and desires. You create not because you need something to be fulfilled, but because creation is the natural movement of consciousness knowing itself through form. This is why your manifestations begin to flow so much more easily once you've passed the final test. There's no resistance because there's no sense that you need to get somewhere else to be okay. There's no desperation because there's no fundamental dissatisfaction with what is. There's only curiosity, only wonder, only the delight of watching consciousness surprise itself with what it chooses to experience next. I'm curious. What's one old pattern or belief about yourself that you're ready to let go of after hearing this? Share in the comments what you're choosing to release as you step into this recognition of who you truly are. And your relationships transform completely. When you're no longer looking to others to validate your worth, to complete your sense of self, to give you what you think you need to be happy, you become free to actually see them. Not as characters in your story, not as sources of satisfaction or frustration, but as other expressions of the same consciousness you are, exploring themselves through different forms. This doesn't make you detached or indifferent. It makes you more loving, more present, more genuinely interested in their experience. When you're not constantly trying to get something from them, approval, attention, agreement, affection, you can offer something to them. The gift of being truly seen, truly met, truly accepted exactly as they are. The people in your life begin to respond to this shift in ways that might surprise you. The relationships that were based on mutual neediness or unconscious patterns begin to either evolve into something more authentic or naturally fade away. And new relationships begin to appear. Connections based not on what you can get from each other, but on the recognition of what you share. The same essential nature expressing itself through different personalities. Now, what I've shared with you today about passing the final test and living from your natural state, this is really just the beginning of a much deeper understanding. If you're feeling this recognition stirring within you, if these concepts are landing not just as ideas, but as embodied knowing, then you're ready to explore the complete quantum framework that underlies this transformation. I've mapped out the entire journey, from the seeking phase through the integration phase and into full embodied mastery. In my comprehensive guide, Beyond the Frequencies, a quantum guide to consciousness mastery. It contains layers upon layers of understanding that we simply don't have time to explore in a single video, including the specific practices that support this embodiment process. You'll find it linked in the pinned comment below. When you're no longer trying to prove your value through achievement, when you're not seeking external validation for your sense of worth, your work life changes too. You become free to express your authentic gifts. The work that drains you because it's not aligned with who you are becomes impossible to sustain. The work that calls forth your genuine enthusiasm begins to magnetize toward you. This doesn't necessarily mean you quit your job tomorrow and become a full-time spiritual teacher. It means you begin to bring your whole self to whatever you're doing. You begin to work from inspiration rather than desperation, from authentic expression rather than obligation or fear. And here's what's beautiful. The more aligned your expression becomes with your true nature, the more value you naturally create in the world. Not because you're trying harder, but because you're operating from your natural flow, your inherent genius, the unique way consciousness moves through your particular system. But perhaps the most profound shift happens in how you relate to challenge, to difficulty, to what you used to call problems. When you understand that you are consciousness exploring itself through every experience, including the challenging ones, you begin to meet difficulty with curiosity rather than resistance. This doesn't mean you become passive or stop taking action when action is needed. It means you stop adding the extra layer of suffering that comes from believing that challenges shouldn't be happening, that their presence means something has gone wrong, that you've failed or fallen off your spiritual path. Challenges become opportunities to discover how deeply you trust your true nature. Difficult emotions become chances to practice staying present with the full spectrum of human experience. Unexpected circumstances become invitations to see how consciousness responds when it can't control the external situation. And in this shift from resistance to curiosity, from judgment to acceptance, from trying to fix everything to trusting the intelligence of what is, you discover a peace that doesn't depend on everything going according to plan. You find a joy that exists even in the middle of uncertainty. You access a love that can hold all of experience without needing to change any of it. This is what mastery actually looks like. Not the ability to control your reality, but the ability to be present with whatever reality is arising. Knowing that your peace, your joy, your sense of wholeness doesn't depend on external circumstances. And as you embody this more and more consistently, people around you begin to notice something different. They can't quite put their finger on what it is, but there's something about your presence that feels calming, grounding, inspiring. You're not trying to be anything special. You're not putting on a spiritual persona. You're simply being yourself from a place of deep self-acceptance. This is what I call becoming a field anchor. You become a point of coherence in the collective field that makes it easier for others to access their own natural state. Your embodied peace gives others permission to relax. Your authentic self-expression gives others permission to be themselves. Your willingness to be present with whatever is arising gives others the space to feel their own feelings without judgment. You begin to realize that your spiritual journey was never just about your own awakening. It was preparing you to be of service in a very specific way. By embodying the truth that seeking isn't necessary, that wholeness is your natural state, that consciousness doesn't need to be achieved because it's what you are. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to model this recognition. Not through preaching or teaching, but through simply being present as what you are. When someone comes to you in a state of anxiety or confusion or despair, you don't try to fix them or give them advice or convince them to see things differently. You simply meet them from the space of knowing that their essential nature is the same as yours. Whole, complete, already perfect. And in that meeting, in that recognition, something shifts. They feel seen not just in their struggle, but in their inherent wholeness. They experience what it's like to be in the presence of someone who isn't trying to change them, who isn't judging their experience, who simply holds the space for them to be exactly as they are. This is the work you're being invited into now. Not the work of becoming something more than you are, but the work of being so fully what you are that others remember what they are too. Tell me in the comments, what's one way you're already starting to embody this recognition in your daily life? How are you showing up differently since you've begun to understand that the seeking phase is complete? If what I'm sharing is touching something in you, if these words are landing in a space of recognition rather than hope, then I invite you to subscribe not just to this channel, but to this frequency, to this conversation, to this movement of consciousness awakening to itself through human experience. Subscribe because you recognize that we are in this together, that your awakening is intimately connected to the awakening of every other being on the planet. Subscribe because you know that the more of us who embody our natural state, the more the world reflects that truth back to all of us. This isn't about consuming more content or learning more techniques. This is about joining a field of beings who have moved beyond the seeker identity and into the embodiment of what they've been seeking. This is about staying connected to others who are committed to living as love in action, as consciousness in form, as the answer to their own prayers. And I want to share something with you about what this embodied life actually looks like day to day, because there can be a tendency to romanticize awakening, to imagine that once you pass the final test, everything becomes easy and blissful and free of challenge. That's not what happens. What happens is that you become capable of meeting whatever arises, easy or difficult, blissful or challenging, from a place of presence rather than resistance. You develop what I call embodied resilience, the ability to stay connected to your essential nature even when your human experience is intense or uncomfortable. This resilience isn't built through avoiding difficulty or trying to maintain a constant state of peace. It's built through repeatedly choosing to stay present with whatever is arising, repeatedly choosing to trust the intelligence of your experience even when you don't understand it, repeatedly choosing to respond from your center rather than react from your conditioning. Each time you make this choice, each time you stay present instead of escaping, each time you respond from love instead of fear, you deepen your embodiment. You strengthen the neural pathways that support your recognition of what you are. You build the capacity to be consciousness in form under all conditions. And this is crucial because the world doesn't need more people who can only access their peace in perfect conditions. The world needs people who can remain centered in chaos, who can stay open-hearted in the face of fear, who can hold compassion even when they're being challenged or criticized or misunderstood. The world needs people who have done their own inner work, not so they can escape the human experience, but so they can show up fully for it. People who have healed their own wounds, not so they never get triggered, but so when they do get triggered, they can recognize it quickly, take responsibility for their reaction, and return to their center without making others responsible for their emotional state. The world needs embodied beings, conscious humans, people who have integrated their realization into their daily lived experience. This integration doesn't happen automatically just because you've had insights or peak experiences or moments of clarity. It happens through practice, through choosing moment by moment to live from the recognition of what you are, instead of from the habits of who you used to think you were. Some days this will feel easy and natural. Other days it will feel like you're swimming upstream. Both experiences are perfect. Both are part of the embodiment process. Both are opportunities to deepen your trust in what you are. Because here's what you're learning. Your true nature isn't fragile. It doesn't disappear when you have a bad day or get triggered or feel confused or make mistakes. Your essential nature is unshakable, unchanging, always present and available, regardless of what's happening in your temporary experience. The more you trust this, the more you can relax into being human without losing your connection to what you are. You can feel angry without forgetting that you are love. You can feel confused without forgetting that you are clarity. You can feel separate without forgetting that you are wholeness itself. And as you embody this integration more and more consistently, your life becomes a demonstration of what's possible when a human being operates from their natural state. Not perfect, not without challenge, but authentic, present, and increasingly aligned with the love that you are. People will begin to ask you what's different about you. They'll want to know what you're doing, what practice you're following, what technique you're using. And your answer will be simple. I stopped trying to become something I'm not and started being what I am. This is the invitation that comes after passing the final test. To live as a bridge between the old paradigm of seeking and the new paradigm of being. To demonstrate through your very existence that the spiritual journey leads not to transcendence of the human experience, but to the full embodiment of consciousness within the human experience. And as more and more beings make this transition, as more and more people move from seeking to embodying, a tipping point approaches, a critical mass of embodied consciousness that begins to shift the entire field of human experience. This is why you're here. This is why you've moved through everything you've moved through. Not just for your own liberation, but to be part of the greatest transformation our species has ever undergone. The collective recognition that we are not separate beings trying to survive in a hostile universe, but expressions of one consciousness exploring itself through countless forms. From here, every choice becomes an opportunity to either honor this recognition or forget it. Every moment becomes a chance to either embody your true nature or slide back into the illusion of separation. And the more consistently you choose to remember, to embody, to live from this space, the more your external reality reorganizes itself to support and reflect this internal knowing. Consider watching this video again tomorrow morning to anchor this frequency as you begin your day, or share it with someone who you sense is ready to move beyond the seeking phase. When you share these concepts with others, you're not just passing along information. You're creating energetic ripples that accelerate the collective awakening and strengthen your own embodiment of these truths. Your act of sharing becomes a declaration to the field that you're ready to live as what you are. Your work now is not to maintain this state through effort, but to trust it enough to let it live you. To stop managing your experience and start allowing your experience to be a genuine expression of who you are. This means you stop trying to control how you feel and start feeling fully, knowing that all feelings are movements of consciousness. You stop trying to control what you think and start thinking clearly, knowing that all thoughts are arisings in awareness. You stop trying to control what happens and start participating fully, knowing that all experiences are opportunities for consciousness to know itself more completely. You begin to live as prayer in motion, as meditation in form, as love embodied not because you've transcended your humanity, but because you've remembered that your humanity is an expression of divinity itself. And as you embody this more and more consistently, you begin to notice that you're surrounded by others who are also moving through their own version of the final test. You begin to recognize the signs, the symptoms, the subtle shifts that indicate when someone is ready to stop seeking and start being. If what I'm sharing is touching something in you, If these words are landing in a space of recognition rather than hope, then I invite you to subscribe not just to this channel, but to this frequency, to this conversation, to this movement of consciousness awakening to itself through human experience. Subscribe because you recognize that we are in this together, that your awakening is intimately connected to the awakening of every other being on the planet. Subscribe because you know that the more of us who embody our natural state, the more the world reflects that truth back to all of us. This isn't about consuming more content or learning more techniques. This is about joining a field of beings who have moved beyond the seeker identity and into the embodiment of what they've been seeking. This is about staying connected to others who are committed to living as love in action, as consciousness in form, as the answer to their own prayers. Because here's what I know to be true. You didn't come here to figure life out. You came here to live life fully. You didn't come here to transcend your humanity. You came here to express your divinity through your humanity. You didn't come here to get somewhere else. You came here to be here, fully, completely, without reservation. The final test was recognizing this. Living it is your gift to the world. And as we near the completion of our time together, I want to leave you with this. Every day from now on is an opportunity to choose. Not between right and wrong, not between spiritual and mundane, not between evolved and unenlightened, but between remembering and forgetting, between embodying and pretending, between living as what you are and playing the role of what you think you should be. The choice is always available. The invitation is always present. Your natural state is always accessible, not as something you achieve, but as something you recognize. Not as something you become, but as something you are. You are the observer and the observed. You are the dreamer and the dream. You are the question and the answer, the seeker and the sought, the lover and the beloved. You are consciousness itself, having chosen to experience existence through this particular form, at this particular time, in this particular way. And that choice, the choice to be here, to be human, to participate in this grand experiment of awareness exploring itself, is the most profound spiritual practice there is. Live it fully, trust it completely, embody it courageously. And as we conclude, I invite you to drop one word in the comments that captures the energy you're choosing to embody moving forward. Not a word that represents what you hope to become, but a word that represents what you're ready to be right now. Let this word be your energetic signature to the quantum field, your statement of intention not for someday, but for today. Drop that one word now. And if you feel called to subscribe, do it not just to stay connected to more content, but to stay coherent with this frequency of embodied awakening. Subscribe to remain part of this field of beings who have passed their final test and are now living as the demonstration of what becomes possible when consciousness knows itself as itself. The more of us who embody this truth, the more rapidly this recognition spreads through the collective field. The more of us who live as what we are, the easier it becomes for others to remember what they are. This is how the world changes. Not through force or effort or trying to fix what's broken, but through beings like you remembering who they really are and living that truth without apology. You passed the final test the moment you stopped needing to pass tests. Now comes the real adventure. Living as the magnificent being you have always been, disguised for a while as someone who was still trying to figure it out. Welcome home to yourself. Welcome to the space beyond seeking. Welcome to the life you came here to live. The test is complete. The embodiment begins now. Now that you understand how passing the final test shifts your entire relationship to reality, you're ready to explore what happens when you realize that manifestation actually works backwards from everything you've been taught. The observer mirror reveals how reality is constantly reflecting back your deepest beliefs about yourself. And once you see this mechanism clearly, you gain access to a level of conscious creation that most people never discover.